Welcome to episode 29 of And No. We are coming to the conclusion of grad season, and with it has come a lot of great emotions. And to say that it's been a bit emotional would be quite the understatement. The school that my daughter has attended has done an exceptional job of preparing the graduates, as well as us caregivers, for this major life shift. And yet, when these moments are right at your feet, it seems surreal that my wide eyed toddler has now completed high school and is embarking on a brand new journey. A few nights ago was her concluding grad banquet, and the teacher giving the commencement speech gave a great analogy of how many approach the shores of an ocean as though they have reached their destination, that arriving on the beach is the final destination. But he challenged the graduates to think beyond that, because although the beach is beautiful, the ocean in and of itself is a great adventure waiting to be discovered. Now, I'm not giving his talk the justice that it deserves, but it did get me thinking about the story of Peter, Jesus, and the boat. If you grew up in a church, this was a favorite childhood story for many. And me being a vivid picture learner, I always envisioned the rocky wooden boat swaying side to side and Peter carefully stepping over its edge. And I imagined what it would feel like to have my feet be on solid ground, knowing full well that it should be liquid underneath. I think any of us who are approaching new chapters in our lives should keep this beautiful story at the forefront of our minds. Here's just a small part found in the book of Matthew. Matthew 14:25 to 31. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You have little faith," he said. "Why did you doubt?" The story is about Jesus rescuing Peter because at first Peter had faith, but then he got distracted by all that was around him, and his faith began to waver. And when it did, he began to sink. How many of us have had our faith rocked because things don't go how we had planned? How many of us have experienced our own faith wavering? Maybe the idea of that makes you a bit uncomfortable. Like having a faith that isn't always rock solid is perhaps a sign of weakness. I'd like to share my own experiences of my own faith journey with you. I have found in my life the moments when my faith has been tested, when I've been asking God hard questions, when I've been furious at Him, when I have felt alone. It's in those moments where I feel like I was being my authentic self. And when I think about those whom I love, whom I cherish, those that I want to have a deep, meaningful relationship with, well, we challenge each other. We don't always get along. And after we have disagreements, we have resolutions, a better understanding of one another, and a deeper trust. And I feel the same thing happens between me and God, especially when I've been angry. Towards the end of Jesus' life, he has approached his disciples and he's kind of giving them a rundown of what's to come, but they just aren't understanding because they don't know what the future holds. Jesus knows his death is right around the corner and he's trying to prepare them. Now, Peter tells Jesus at this moment that he's never going to forsake him. And Jesus looks right at him and says, "Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times before the rooster crows." Let's just pause here for a second. Could you imagine declaring to someone you care deeply about that you're going to stick right by them, no matter what? And their response isn't, "Thank you, I totally believe that," but is actually, "I know better than you and you're going to deny me." I mean, that would hurt. That would hurt so much. But whatever, that's a different podcast. Getting back to this one, I see a really beautiful bridge between the story of Peter stepping out on the water and his denial later on. And here's my take on it. I feel as though Jesus is rescuing Peter from the water, that moment will be remembered by Peter after his denial, and it will be a beautiful balm to his soul. In both cases, Peter lost sight of who Jesus was. In the first case, the waves, the wind, the fact that he's literally walking on water is just too much for his brain to handle, and he freaked out when he denies knowing Jesus. And that moment, Jesus is being questioned by officials. His future is unknown, and the threat of Jesus dying is really becoming an authentic reality. Again, Peter got scared. How beautiful for Peter to remember that Jesus had already seen him scared, and he still chose to save Peter. His fear was no match for Jesus' love. And know this, each of us has been scared at some point. And when I remember this grad speech that this teacher so eloquently shared with these students, it reminds me that often we can feel in our own faith that we have arrived. But in actuality, our whole lives are an ebb and flow of standing on the ocean's edge and having faith to dive right in. Sometimes we will go back to shore and recalibrate, refocus, remember who God is. And just as Jesus promises to be there for Peter and lifts him out of the water when he begins to sink, Jesus is there for me, and he's there for you. And if you think that you are about to sink, and if you're feeling unsure of your footing, remember to reach out to Jesus. He's always ready for you. Peter was one of Jesus's chosen ones. He knew Peter would falter. And this is a fantastic reminder that our faith requires, well, faith. And that's my prayer for each of us, that we are able to choose daily, perhaps even hourly, that Jesus is the one we can always count on. I hope today's podcast was a blessing to you, and I'll see you next week.